Hello everybody, my name is Korosh Erfani and I am going to present to you a short program about the political management of the Iranian economy. The Iranian economy is an important issue because, as you know, the economic situation in Iran is getting worse under pressure of stagflation. And as you know, stagflation is a situation in which we have both stagnation and inflation. And it seems that the Iranian government loses more and more the capability to manage the economy because the Iranian regime is not able to establish a steady and long-term controlling situation in the country. The governance in general and all the signs are confirming it became very shaky, and the economy seems running away from any logical and rational direction. The main issue is the lack of qualified management in the country. From the time when Ahmadinejad came to the power, someone who was with a confused background in 2005, a few institutions that were in charge of planning and supervising the economy had been simply eliminated, removed, and their responsibilities came on the hands of the president himself or of his trusted ministers. For example, the Iranian central bank had been under pressure by the president to report only to him and not to any other authority. This opened the way to lots of drifts and problems. Ahmadinejad was really lucky, we can say that, because after he became president, the oil prices reached an unprecedented price. The country's income rose considerably, and Ahmadinejad could use this huge amount of money, estimated to $280 billion during his first 4 years, to establish his very special method of management that can be summarized more and less as no management. This is the method of Ahmadinejad, no management. Ahmadinejad entered a big bunch of military staff from the Revolutionary Guards, I mean from the Pastaran, to the administration, and gave them the opportunity and also the large sums of money to do almost any favorable and even illegal business where they can. And in this way, Ahmadinejad transformed military forces who had helped him to become president into the loyal support businessmen. In this way, the country became a huge marketplace where you could sell and buy anything, and the importation got the high level of almost $300 billion during the first 4 years of the presidency of Ahmadinejad. So this age of importation broke the national manufacturing across the country, and a lot of factories or small or medium industrial units went out of business, leaving thousands of unemployed workers in the streets. By this huge amount of money, Ahmadinejad made the Iranian economy a big importer of any kind of goods one can imagine, especially from China. China poured its low quality and substandard merchandise into the Iranian market. Everything was made in China. Iran bought the support of the China in the international stage, like in the International Security Council at the United Nations, with an enormous price, sacrificing its national economy for the Chinese interest. Everything was looking fine until the shock that arrived in 2008, when the global crisis made the oil price fall. The income of the country decreased drastically, and it became obvious that the mismanagement of the country made important damage to the economy. Some of this damage, we have to say, were definitely irreversible. In the middle of this chaos, the election of the new president arrived. In May 2009, the elections had been won by Mir Hossein Mousavi, the reformist candidate. Ahmadinejad and his team should normally leave the political power, and thousands of military businessmen from the Revolutionary Guards or Pastaran should then put down their flourishing business, their very good business, and return to the military camps. A true nightmare for them, and also a nightmare for all the conservative individuals and parts of the Iranian regime. At that time, the dominant faction of the regime decided to cheat in the elections result and announced the victory of Ahmadinejad. The supreme leader of the Islamic Republic, Ali Khamenei, acknowledged this false victory and in fact lost his usual position of balancing the different division inside the political structure. Khamenei became, in fact, a bandit, like any other member of the mafia that wanted to conserve the power with tricks, criminal activities, force, and repression. The Green Movement saw its destiny sober and bloody. The country turned into a chaotic situation that lasted for at least 6 months. We have to say that even though the Green Movement did not succeed to make the regime accept the election result, but it got one important victory, depriving the government from any remaining legitimacy and managing the economic crisis calmly and in an advantageous way. By doing so, the movement forced the Iranian regime to adopt a day-by-day management of the country. No more strategic projects, no more long-term plans, just being able to finish the month and trying to see how it can reach the end of the coming month. And under this situation, the economy downgraded further. The high inflation and the lack of resources obliged Ahmadinejad to implement one of the most controversial plans that had been remained on the table of the former presidents for years. What was this project? The suppression of subsidy paid by the government for the necessary basic goods like for sugar, bread, milk, and the things like that. The payment of these subsidies was one of the most overwhelming charges for the Iranian administration for decades. its existence can be explained by the fact that the government had the monopoly of acceding to all the petrol's income. The successive governments had refused to implement this plan because of its uncertain economic and social outcomes. Some analysts, for example, saw in this project a kind of suicide for any government that would apply it. But Ahmadinejad ultimately did it. Was it because he was a brave president? Not really. That was because he has no choice at that moment. He had no any other option at that moment. By starting this plan, he was hoping to bring the price of the main goods for which the government paid the subsidy to a normal level. Which level? The level of a normal free market. For helping the people to deal with this enormous increase of the prices, he planned to pay monthly a financial help directly to the public. That's why some $45 per month are in this way given to each Iranian. The estimation of the government was that because of freeing the prices, there would be an inflation that can be limited to 20% at long term. This calculation completely failed. Just after the plan began, the price started to increase. And we had a very sharp increasing of all the prices, and some of the prices had an augmentation of 100%. The government preferred to ignore the true figures and publish the fake information, and after a few months, Ahmadinejad banned completely the publication of the economic figures, and especially those of the mounting inflation. But the independent sources did it instead, and the difference between the figures of the government and the figures of the independent sources was huge. During this time, the government could not get the payback it was expecting by the elimination of the subsidies. The predictions had announced that the state will disperse some $40 billion as direct financial help to the people, and in return will bring in some $60 billion as the result of the new free prices that were supposed to generate more income from the market for the state's funds. But ironically, the market controlled by the mafia family could not respond well to this initiative. The growth of the prices undermined the purchasing power of the people, and afterwards, in the one hand, the government of Ahmadinejad has to pay annually some $40 billion to the people, hard cash, and on the other hand, it is not receiving enough revenue even to finance this very sum. So, we can ask, what was the result? The government should find other monetary sources to finance its new binding undertaking. In other words, Ahmadinejad is gotten stuck in the hole that he dug by his own hands. And he did it when he was losing the control of the government's budget in 2010. We shouldn't forget that. The people, especially the poor, became financially very reliant to this monthly aid, and if they don't receive it for a month, the Iranian big cities' streets would be witness of some social riots. In these conditions, we understand how crucial it is for the Iranian regime to be assured about its income from the oil and gas exportation. This one represents, we shouldn't forget that, that's very, very crucial for our debate, the income of the oil and gas exportation represents some 80% of all the external income of the government. If for any reason the Iranian Central Bank or the Iranian petrol's exportation goes under the sanctions of the international community, there wouldn't be any hope or any getaway for the regime to survive. The Iranian regime will be surrounded by the people whose 80% almost are living under the poverty line. Regime that, especially after the repression of the protest of 2009, had to deal with a deep legitimacy crisis. As some say, the regime is not only unpopular, but in addition, it is hated by a vast majority of the Iranian population, those who lost almost everything only for having a normal life. The economy is the Achilles heel of this regime, and the people cannot put up with the deepening poverty, discrimination, corruption, and repression. If the conditions get worse, and that is definitely will, I think, we could foresee a kind of popular insurrection. A popular insurrection that is almost and potentially present in the society. If the regime cannot reach to an agreement with the Western countries about its nuclear activities and then cannot obtain enough the fund and investment for the necessary and unavoidable expenses in the country, and especially in the petrols sector, its future will be more than uncertain. But for that, the regime should arrive to some unison in its core, in its own internal structure, and put an end to the power struggle that we can see right now. The factions of the regime should reach to a well-built agreement that enable the government to come to the table of the negotiations with the USA and Europe. Will it be possible to do so? In the next video, we will see and we will study this possibility and the different hypotheses related to this issue. Thank you very much for watching this video, and goodbye.